In this video, I'm going to give you some job hunt and interview tips that are going to give you a leg up in getting a full-time job as a video creator. Hey, what's going on? My name is Peter Sarellas. I'm a videographer and editor from Toronto, Canada. I specialize in sports videography, and I have been on both sides of the hiring process for quite a while. I've been an interviewer, I've been an interviewee for full-time jobs. I've also hired freelancers on contract, and I have been hired as a freelancer on a contract myself. So I feel like I've got a wealth of experience in the job market, and I'm going to be using that all today to give you some practical tips that you can use for finding jobs that you're interested in, putting together a good portfolio to apply to those jobs, getting through the interview process of those jobs, and eventually landing a full-time job creating videos. Now, this is going to be a little bit more tailored to sports videos, since that's kind of what I do. But most of this is going to apply to all video jobs, and I'm just going to use specific examples from my industry where applicable so that I can speak to them a little bit more. But if you're looking for jobs in video that aren't necessarily related to sports, there's still going to be a ton of value for you in this video, so stay tuned. So the first thing that you want to do when you're putting together your portfolio is you want to make sure that it is very easy to find your work. You don't necessarily need to have a large internet presence, but having some sort of public-facing internet presence is definitely a good idea. I personally have my Instagram where I showcase a lot of my work, and I also have my portfolio website, which is public, and I am freely linking everywhere in my job applications, as we will talk about. But if you're not comfortable being more public-facing, you don't want to really put yourself out there in the public eye, like, that doesn't mean you can't work in this industry. That's totally okay. Setting up some sort of private web page, even Google Drive with a couple folders of relevant work, if that's what it's going to be, is totally fine. And if your skills are there, that's not really going to be a deterrent for getting a job when you're in the process. It just might make getting found for jobs that you otherwise wouldn't have really considered a little bit more difficult. But that's okay. What is very important is that your portfolio is easy to find in your job applications. I have been an interviewer going through job applications before, deciding who we're going to talk to, and there have been a ton of job applications that just haven't had the actual link to the person's video portfolio readily visible. If I have to go through your application and search and search and search and read your cover letter and go through your whole resume just to try to dig out a link to any videos that you've made, then you're probably not getting that interview. So as a job hunter or interviewee, when I'm applying to jobs, I will usually put my website at the top of my resume. I will put it in the job description section under my freelance videography work. I'll also put it at the end of my cover letter, and I attach a separate document called portfolio links where I include both my portfolio website and my Instagram. That way, if I submit a job application, there is absolutely no way that anyone can miss my portfolio. Like, you have to watch the videos that I've created and make a decision as to whether I'm good for the role or not. And I'm not saying that you need to be that excessive with it where you put it like absolutely everywhere, but it's important that your portfolio is clearly visible, and you definitely want it to be in too many places rather than not enough places in your job applications. Now, as far as the structure of the job application yourself, usually I submit a resume, a cover letter, and my portfolio. Your resume and cover letter are definitely important. I would say your resume is more so important than your cover letter. Your cover letter is not that big of a deal, honestly, when you're talking about video jobs in creative fields. But the thing that's going to be the most important is your portfolio. If you have a really good portfolio and you have spelling mistakes in your cover letter and your resume doesn't look amazing, but like all the information is there, then you're going to get some interviews as long as your skills are up to par. But you could have the most polished resume, the best looking cover letter ever. If you have a bad portfolio that doesn't show that you have the skills to actually create the videos that the company hiring is looking for, then you're not going to get an interview. So the portfolio is the most important part, and you really need to put a lot of time into creating a well-crafted portfolio if you want to get considered for jobs. Now, as far as where to actually find jobs to apply to, there's obviously the common places like Indeed and LinkedIn, and these are good for like jobs in every single industry, not just media, and definitely not just video. But there are going to be tons of video jobs on these two platforms. So I wouldn't recommend like spam applying to all of them. That's definitely not productive. But if you see jobs on Indeed or LinkedIn that you find interesting, save them into like a group or a folder or something. and then go through all the jobs you've saved, see which ones are really interesting to you, read all the job descriptions, and maybe pick like 10 jobs that you can apply to over the course of a month really thoughtfully and with personalization towards that specific company. Personalizing your job applications to the actual company is gonna get you a lot more response than if you spam out 100 job applications in a month that are all just generic. For video jobs specifically focusing on sports or really just other jobs in sports media, Teamwork Online is a great resource for the US. There's not really many jobs outside of the US there, and I am Canadian, so I personally don't use it that much. But there's jobs going up there all the time if you are American and looking for work in the sports media industry. So I would definitely check that out. And also, I am part of the sports creative community on Slack, and it's just a big network of professionals working in the sports media space, posting jobs, sharing resources, just asking each other questions. So that's a good place to, one, find jobs. Again, it's mostly American, but there are more like freelance and internationally available jobs that go in there than Teamwork Online. And also just like see what other people in your industry are saying. So I'd recommend joining that as well if you can. I'm gonna put a link to these two things down in the description. And finally, I would also go to specific companies' websites in your area who you're interested in working for, find their careers page and save it to a bookmarks folder on your internet browser. Then every few days I would check up to see if a job is being posted that you're interested in, or if it's possible, get notifications sent to your email that notify you whenever a job with a specific keyword has been posted. So you could use keywords like video, producer, editor, videographer, director of photography, filmmaker. Any of these are decent keywords to get job notifications for, and then if something comes up that kind of fits that sphere that you're interested in working in, you'll get notified right away and you don't need to be checking in all the time. Now we need to talk specifically about job descriptions a little bit, because job descriptions aren't always the most clear or intuitive, especially in creative fields. For video, for example, you can get a job posting for a camera operator, a director of photography, and a videographer/editor. And these all might sound pretty similar to you, but they're completely different roles that are going to require completely different sets of skills, and people are going to be looking for different qualifications to fill these roles. And if you don't kind of understand what every job is looking for, you're going to be applying to things that you're just not qualified for, that you're not interested in, and you're going to get disappointed or frustrated when you're not hearing back as much as you think you should be. And even more confusing, you can get two jobs that have a similar job title, but then the actual job itself requires different qualifications, or they're going to be looking for someone who can produce different types of content. And the specifics for what each job is looking for are going to be found in the job description. So I would make sure to very thoroughly read the job description of every job that you're going to be applying for and really understand what that specific job is looking for. What type of content do they want created? Is it more of a focus on long form content or short form content? Is it going to be for social media, or are you going to be creating internal videos? There's so many different questions you can ask that need to be answered in a job description. So I would read the job descriptions very thoroughly. If you have any questions, put them all on the list and ask the hiring manager when you get to the interview stage, or even before if you'd like, to make sure that the job's a good fit for you before putting time and effort into sending out an application and going through the interview process. Geez, I'm sorry if you can hear the sirens in the background. That is so annoying and just the worst timing. All right, we're gonna ignore the sirens and just keep going here. The good news with interviews is that if you actually get to the interview stage, that means the employer thinks that your portfolio and your body of work is good enough that you technically can handle the work that they're looking to have done. What they're really looking for in an interview is, one, gauging your personality, and two, seeing if you're a good fit for the company culture. And with that in mind, you want to make sure that you're well researched on the company and that you understand what the company is kind of about and what the interviewers are about, so that you can go in there and get along with people and show yourself as someone who fits that company culture. Or maybe you do some research and decide you don't fit the company culture, in which case you don't really proceed with the application. But most of the time, if you've decided to apply for a job, you're going to want to make sure that everything goes well and that you get along with the interviewer when you're doing that interview. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you're interview prepping is research the company and get to understand them on both a broader scope and, from a more specific sense, on their digital platforms or their socials. So from a broader sense, and let's use a sports league as an example, since my past couple employers have been sports leagues, what's happened in that sports league for the past few years? Who are some of the key players in that sports league? What are the teams in the league? These are really important things that you need to know, because you're gonna get asked questions where you have to refer to this type of stuff in the interview, and if you don't know anything about the company, that's not gonna show you as someone who really cares and wants to work there. So you definitely need to make sure that you're researched about whatever company you are applying to as a whole. But then more specifically to the socials, you want to know what is that organization doing well on socials right now? What in that organization's digital space can they possibly improve on? How do your skills fit into what they're trying to accomplish, and how can you contribute to improving their digital platform? These are all questions that you're going to want to have answers to so that you can speak to them and show your value when you're in an interview. Ideally, you also want to understand a little bit about who you're talking to in the interview. Don't go crazy with this. Be normal, but knowing a little bit about the person who you're going to be talking to, what they've done and what they're doing right now, is going to give you some prompts to make conversation that are going to make the interview more enjoyable for both of you. Now in the interview, you're going to be asked company-specific, situational, and technical, and personality-based questions, and you want to make sure that you're ready to answer all three types of these questions. So company-specific questions you're going to be able to answer as a result of the research that you do on the company, both broader and their social platforms. Some examples of company-specific questions could be, why do you want to work here? Or what's one video you want to make for us? The situational and technical questions, if your portfolio is good enough and you actually get to the interview stage, then you're probably going to have the tacit knowledge that you need to answer any technical questions that are thrown at you. So I usually don't worry about technical questions too much. I just know that I'm good enough and I have enough experience to answer them, and you probably will as well if you get to the interview stage. But some examples of situational or technical questions could be, if you have two projects with different deadlines, how do you prioritize them? And obviously that question will be made more specific within the interview, but I'm just being general here. Or another example could be, what software do you use and what is your proficiency with that software? This is a question that's going to be clearly listed in the job description. They'll say what softwares they want. Just make sure that when you're applying, you use that software, and it's an easy question. Now for the personality-based questions, understanding the company and the interviewer are going to help with these, but really these are about yourself, and the personality-based questions is where the interviewer is going to see if you're actually a good fit for the job that they're hiring for, and if you're going to be able to work well within that team. So some examples of personality-based questions are things as simple as, tell me about yourself, or do you prefer working alone or in a team, and why? A lot of the characteristics that the company is going to be looking for are again going to be listed in the job description, so I would read that very thoroughly and think about experiences and tailor answers to the characteristics that they're looking for, that they talk about. But this is kind of going to be like the make or break thing that you really need to be brushed up on and be ready for. These personality-based questions are definitely the hardest ones for me in my experiences as an interviewee, and they're the places where people get the most stumped when I've been interviewing. So I would definitely prepare these the most. Anyways, we've now gone over tips for preparing an application and getting your portfolio ready, actually finding jobs you want to apply to, and then going through the interview process and landing that job. So hopefully this has all helped you get more prepared to land a full-time job as a video creator. If it did, then please hit that subscribe button, because I post videography and video editing tips tutorial videos similar to this one on a regular basis, and I'd love to have you around for that. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, drop it down in the comment section. I'd love to have a discussion with you down there. And that's going to be all for today. So until next time, peace.